Hello, everybody, and welcome to All Things Considered Franchising Podcast. I am your host, Scotty Milas, and I've been around the franchising space, seems like a lifetime, so welcome to the show. Just a little FYI, I help people explore franchise ownership and see if it's the right path for them, and more importantly, provide an educational journey to see how a brand that can fit your goals and lifestyle. I also educate my clients on how to validate and make a logical business decision as well as an informed decision. On this show, you'll hear directly from franchise owners as well as franchisors leading exciting brands and people within and in the industry of franchising. You can always connect with me at scotty@theperfectfranchise.com. That is my email address. Visit the websites at theperfectfranchise.com or scottmilasfranchisecoach.com. You can also text and call me at 413-935-5111. Now let's get into today's exciting episode. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of All Things Considered Franchising. I am your host, Scotty Milas. I am the founder of All Things Considered Franchising, also the founder of scottmilasfranchisecoach.com and a member of theperfectfranchise.com. I am elated today to have somebody that I have gotten to know over the last year and a half, someone who really has a compelling story about entrepreneurship, really kind of has that picture of probably 75% of the clients that come into my portfolio, that corporate person, displaced, 20, 25 years of experience, and really has some decisions to make. So I am really, really honored and thrilled to have David Veracci. I think I'm pronouncing that right, Dave?
That's Veracci.
Yep. Who is just celebrated 14 months with SprayNet, Suffolk County, New York, Long Island, as a franchisee. And David and I, during our consultation for almost 4.5, 5 months, I think it was, got to know each other, his family. His son is becoming an entrepreneur now, which is really interesting. But David, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Let's go.
Yeah, really.
All right.
Dave, you and I connected, not coincidentally, two different ways. We reached out to you at the same time you were reaching out to me. And you were kind of in that, as I mentioned in my opening, in that position or situation where 75% of my clients are, been in corporate for 25 years, I think it was, and recently displaced, and you had some decisions to make. Do I get back in, consider business ownership? Walk me through that.
Sure.
Walk us through that kind of that head thinking you and your family were doing in regards to opportunities and a direction to go in.
All right. I was in the legal space for all those years, in a very niche area called e-discovery, electronic discovery. And basically, I helped lead customer service teams and sales teams in making litigators' lives a lot easier. I was unhappy the entire time, but I worked with great people, so I stayed, and the money was good, right? So I kind of got trapped, right, with that, and I was providing for the family, and I was just kind of going along, probably too maybe scared or too lazy maybe to try to make a move. And so I found myself there for a long time. I became the expensive guy as I aged, and at 52, downturn in business, private equity looks at the math, and they solved that through subtraction. So me and 30 other people out the door. So I called my wife, Gina, I got laid off. And it was a celebratory moment for me because now I'm forced to do something different.
Right.
And fortunately, my wife and I were responsible with our money, and I had some options because of that. And then we meet, and the question was, do you want to own your own business? And so, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but didn't know how to go about getting started. So the franchise model was really appealing to me. Here's the roadmap, right? Do these things, expect these results. Well, I like that, right? So
Right.
the next thing is, what's the match, right?
Right.
And that's where you were so terrific and patient, by the way.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
That's the key thing, because what a time that is, right? And the
Right.
guidance you provided was important.
So let's take a step back for a second in this process, this process that you took. You got out of corporate, forced out of corporate, not willingly, had some conversations with family and said, hey, I'm going to investigate being a business owner. Probably sat down on the computer like most people do, started Googling some things, came across franchising, landed in front of me, reached out to me, we started talking. How important was it in your decision process, not so much on the brand SprayNet, but the decision to become or want to become a business owner in the franchising space, because there's the independent route as well, um, in regards to the education you received from someone like me or a consultant to making that validated, informed decision? I mean,
Uh,
walk the audience through that.
Massively important. So I was dabbling with the idea of opening a much needed drum shop here in central Long Island, right? Because I'm a
Right.
drummer hobbyist. My son's a professional drummer, so we're passionate about that sort of thing. And I was looking into how we could make that work, and really, it wasn't long before I found how daunting that undertaking would be. And so, right, the franchise model and how you explained, that why figure it out on your own? Like this is
Right.
already ironed out. Just if you find
Right.
that match, you could just leap forward so much more quickly, and it made perfectly good sense to me. So, thinking back, I'm happy I took this route for sure.
So the educational part, understanding the validation part, how to make informed decisions, kind of that coach consultant relationship, teacher student, um, helped you to really kind of make a decision whether this is something you wanted to do or not do. Correct?
Almost certainly, I would have went back to corporate if not for meeting
Okay.
with you and getting the that guidance to say this is how it's done, and
Okay.
that certainty is what made me go forward.
Now, if I remember correctly, in our process, um, we presented, we had an opportunity to present to you, I think, 5 or 6 different
Hmm.
opportunities. I remember your wife Gina was on the call as well. And how important when you were, um, and I know our approach is pick 2 or 3 to start talking to, and there's always pushback on that as far as, hey, I want to do some research. But you followed the process as far as picking those 2 or 3. And again, it's over a year, so I don't know exactly how we did it, but let's just call it 3. How important was it to talk to 3 different opportunities to really get a sense of the direction that you could see yourself in a business?
Very important, and I think I got lucky in choosing the right one for me. Thinking back, I'd probably, if I had to do it again, I might have even looked at a fourth. You don't want to look at too many, which was your guidance as well, because then it just gets too distracting
Right.
and noisy. But because I was interested in the home improvement space, and there's so many choices in that space, it might have been good to look at. Four,
Okay.
culture is the key thing, right? So
Right.
the culture of the franchise has to match your personality. And I came down to two, which was SprayNet and Floor Coverings International, both
Yep.
wonderful brands. And it was a very difficult decision for me to end
Well,
up.
and this is a great lead into SprayNet because you connected when you did the visit to SprayNet, their corporate office, and I think you went to the one in Toronto, correct? You didn't go to
Montreal. I drove up. I live on Long
Montreal. Yeah,
Island,
you
so
right,
yeah.
right. So you Montreal. So you didn't go to Miami, but you connected with the technology, the patent technologies, the different coatings, that chemist, I think you called it, or a scientist. So that's what really connected you, and of course meeting Gabe and the team and everything. So that's important as far as getting to the culture of the company and can you connect. It's not like you didn't connect with floor coverings
No,
and they're an
correct.
awesome brand, but
Yeah.
the whole thing with the science and the that's what really kind of got you to that decision process.
So correct. So yeah, both teams were great. A lot, and both of those organizations give a lot of attention to their potential franchisees. Um, In fact, hats off to Tim Holiday over at Floor Coverings. He was terrific. Anyway, I went up and I was able to meet the president of SprayNet, Carmelo Marsala, and the whole team and the tour. And what was important to me was that SprayNet was the ownership of the deliverable, right? So
Okay.
we don't subcontract. The crew is my crew. I'm on the hook for everything. And when you're in someone's home and you're gonna, transform the look of their kitchen cabinets, or you're going to be on, the
Right.
exteriors, climbing all over their house and everything. For me, I had to know that if something went wrong, I could step up and get it done. So that's what was the difference. The subcontracting route, I wasn't comfortable with. I couldn't just put all my trust in meeting guys that are always going to come through.
Right.
At the end of the day, something goes wrong in this line of work, I could get in there and I'll get it done. Right.
Right. You don't
So
have to. You don't
that
have to
was a
call
key thing.
somebody to call somebody to call somebody to get it.
Right.
David, one of the things that you and I talked about during our process is fear. We talked about this quite a bit, and we talked about it in our initial consultation franchise strategy meeting, where we talked about fear and not to let fear dictate the process to get yourself educated to make an informed decision. Inevitably, you're always going to have fear. Everybody has a different level of fear, but talk about how you were able to separate yourself, understand your fear, but work through it to make that informed decision.
Oh God, there's so much to say about this. All right, so I'll probably, I might kind of, go.
Yeah, I mean, don't, I mean, again, just for our audience, because this is a big part of the process, working through that fear part, anxiety.
I think it's important to note, no matter what you're doing, even if you're an employee with a company somewhere, you always have fear, right? So
Right,
so first get comfortable with fear, right? It's there. It's no matter what you're doing, there's fear, right? The fear
right,
of change, what's to come, if you're entrusting in a company to decide on your fate, that's fearful. When you become a business owner, now you own all that, right? It's up to you to overcome all these challenges, and it's a scary thing. And what's amazing about this process is all the new fears that introduced
okay,
along
gotcha.
in a day. Like, whoa. And what it really boils down to, what I've come to learn is fear is 90% is just unfamiliarity.
We
The
call it head trash. It's just stuff that just, kind of revolves around, and and it's workable. It's
It's
workable to get through.
workable. So there were days, the early days of production, right? So for me, the biggest challenge was converting from white collar to blue collar, right? So before I had a crew that I would leave, like I have now, because I've been working with these guys sometimes that they're wonderful. I was in it with them, right? And plus, I needed to master, the art of this, all this painting.
Yep.
So I was doing a lot of the work, and yeah, the fear of like getting it wrong and messing up someone's house or kitchen, like, oh my God, it was incredible. And now I look back and I'm like, what a joke. Like, I was scared of, like, over, like, some runs or something, like, now we can fix that, another
Right.
time, but
Right.
simple little things, anyway. So yeah, then you have fears in every component, on every those early sales call, fear of rejection, that's always
Right.
there. Then you have your fear of cash flow management, right? Like, should I spend this or not, and all that. The employees, that's that's a constant, always major fear.
Right.
We're working on ladders, so training, the safety has to be number one to protect, the employee, the homeowner, and their property, and the business, right? So
Right.
that's a constant fear. So you can't let that really distract. Now, if someone doesn't have a tolerance, they business ownership it's the fear is
Right.
going to crush
Well,
them.
you're absolutely right, Dave. There are certain levels of business ownership tolerance, and again, when we go through, and if you think back to our consultation, we actually worked through some of these things. We talked about sales aptitude. And I think you said, well, look, I don't have a lot of experience in it. And my question was, well, can you get past that and get comfortable with it? So you probably had some fear, like you said, you had some fear initially, but you worked through it. But my question is this. You did a lot of due diligence.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've always tried to get my clients to do, much like you just said, is find that culture, that understanding with the brand. But inside that culture with the brand is the support side.
Oh, yeah.
So how important is it to know that, and I've heard it from other franchisees that I've placed inside SprayNet, and they're a prime example of how to support the clients. How important is it for the brand to support the franchisee, and knowing as a business owner or franchisee that you are there to get supported, that there is support there for you?
Great question. And if I was going to give anybody advice on how to shop for a franchise, it would be to really dig in on understanding what the support's going to be. SprayNet, you know, I'm thrilled with the support I get. I have a coach assigned to me, and this person his name's Bruce Again. He's unbelievable. Like, he knows every aspect of the business in and out, from the accounting side to the, taking apart the equipment, to everything, managing people. And we have weekly meetings, and we review our numbers, and we review those fears and everything.
Okay.
You really have to be able to lean on somebody to get you through those uncertain times. So yeah, the guidance that the SprayNet team provided, and it's beyond the coach, right? There's the whole network, internal network we have within the SprayNet
Right.
franchise. I call the other franchisees all the time. When I'm in the truck, I'm calling them up, and it's a great.
And they're calling you. I
And
mean,
they
from
call
what
me. Yeah,
yes, that's a
yeah,
great
yeah. We
feeling,
got a
isn't
call today because
it?
we're gonna have a team call about our nationwide relationship with Lowe's. Like, how can we
I
best
heard that. I
leverage
heard
it?
that's really working out really well for you guys. That's
Oh,
great.
imagine that, having Lowe's validate your brand. I have 7 Lowe's stores promoting my business for me. You think I'm going to let them down? No way. So we are coming together to say, what more can we do for them and their customers, right? Because it's all about
Right.
that. It's not about us. How can we make Lowe's look good here so we can keep getting that work?
Right. David, you've been in business for 14 months. I know that when we initially started talking, a lot of people come into this, and you had bigger plans. I mean, it was, and it's good to think that way. Um, Obviously, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you made the right decision to go into business ownership. Um, you asked a lot of questions. I'll tell the audience that. And again, we're talking to David Veracci, who's a franchisee owner with SprayNet, Suffolk County, New York. I'm your host, Scotty Milas, of All Things Considered Franchising. But you did a lot of due diligence. So if you were going to give a couple of pieces of guidance in due diligence to the audience right now, how would you kind of tell them to go about this? What direction? Because a lot of people go into this with big envisions. It's going to be this brand, and then I'm going to want to do this brand. And of course, as the coach, and I think we talked about this. Whoa, let's bring the volume down a little
Yeah.
bit, and we talked about that. So let's really so what guidance could you give somebody who's going to start the process, get it down to that one brand, and really kind of get into that due diligence?
Yeah.
Any guidance?
Listen to the coach. It's starting with baby steps is really important. I have big aspirations, still do, but now the reality of learning how difficult it is to kind of get to that point of great
Right.
growth. Ooh, there's a lot of work to be done. And so what happens is, as you go through, you realize you have to be an army of one in those early days, and that's the hardest until you can build your team and get support to move things forward. So, key things: your spouse. And Scotty, you said this right off the top. Your spouse has to be supportive of this. If there's any kind of like tension there, really dive in.
I remember that. I remember that conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, because my wife has been wonderful. Days you're gonna have days as a new business owner. You go, man, did I make a mistake? Whoa, and then that's when your spouse comes to this. You make a mistake, and they remind you of all the incredible accomplishments you just made over the last 2 weeks, right?
Right.
So that's a big thing. What else? Say again. What else did I?
Yeah, the due diligence part. I mean,
Yeah, due
you
diligence.
you 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 reached out to franchisees. You went
Oh
into
yeah,
the SprayNet network.
yes,
What are
that's
some
another
of the
thing.
things that, we always coach people that you don't want to call up a franchisee and say, hey, your first question is how much money did you make? But at TPF, and what I did is I gave you a 6-step validated process. Our book, chapter 10, talks
Yeah,
about it.
I still got it. I
You
got it
know,
right there on my stuff, by the way.
so
Yeah,
what kind of questions were you asking in line with that 6-step validation to
yeah.
get to that informed, validated decision?
No, very good. That was a key thing. Speaking to current franchisees, you know, the franchisees are that you would be introduced to that the franchise will introduce. They're going to be pro, of the franchise, but they're going to be straight with you. Like they want. Nobody wants to bring somebody in under false pretenses, right? So
Right,
I asked a lot about the day to day, right? What's it like? And it's fascinating because it's never the same, right? There's so many different things that are going to alter the day, and each franchisee will have different things. So that's a wonderful part about the adventure of what
right.
franchising is. So I asked a lot of questions about that. Money concerns, of course, not specifically how much they make, but like what's the what are the key hurdles to achieving the financial
Right.
goals or
Yep.
things like that, and that's important. You'll get a lot of information you wouldn't expect, and a lot of that's going to depend if you're in a service-based industry like me. A lot of that has to come with the effectiveness of the workers and your ability to manage through that. They say slow to hire, quick to fire. Well, that's not so easy, and
Right,
you
right,
have to learn that, right? You're going to get
right.
burned. So, what other questions have I asked in the steps?
Well, you probably touched on marketing. Does the brand support me on the marketing side?
Okay,
Where's the value of marketing? Kind of that 6-step thing.
you're
How
right.
does your marketing help me get clients? How does your marketing, where's the value? Where's the economics to the marketing? Obviously, what is it going to cost me? Because you have to spend money on marketing. So,
Yeah.
those kind of questions.
The marketing is also a major thing. There's a significant spend on that, and going back to the support of the franchise. So beyond just coaching, yeah, how well the marketing team supports each franchisee in their region, because you're going to have different messaging, right, for the different demographics that the
Right,
different franchisees are chasing. So that's huge, and then you have to learn what marketing is most effective for you? Is it creating your own Facebook and Instagram content? Is it doing traditional magazines? Where is it the thumbtacks and the
right.
Angie list of the world? Like, there's a lot of ways you could throw all your money away.
Right. Well, with that being said, Dave, you bring up an interesting point, and I want to get into a little bit more about SprayNet as a brand, the services, because I think that it's a great brand, a lot of science and technology, as we talked about. But one last question in regards to franchising, just to kind of go around here in a 360 to bring this back all front and center. One of the big questions that I get from clients, or the misnomer about franchising, is that the franchisor is looking to take all my money. And what I
Oh,
mean is, they charge me for this, they charge me for that, they do this, they do this. But my debate has always been, or counter is that even if you did this as an independent, you're still going to have to pay for those things.
yeah.
And if you don't, then you're just not going to be successful as an independent. And that's probably why a lot of independent businesses fail early, because they don't realize you need marketing technology, especially today. So when you think about all that, and I know that went through your head a lot when we were initially talking about franchising in general, the pros and cons. When you look at the value what a franchisor like SprayNet brings to the table versus doing this on your own, or doing something like this on your own, you mentioned opening a drum studio center. How do you compare those thoughts?
Oh man, it's I'm so grateful for all the things that SprayNet does for their franchisees. Let's just tap into development, right? So
Right.
our main differentiators, we have proprietary coatings that we guarantee won't peel for 15 years. I mean, no paint is doing that, and it's a factory finish. Every time I apply it, I step back and I'm like, it's incredible, how the product lives up to what the
Right.
expectations are. And they're always pushing to develop new things or make existing products better. I don't have to think about that. I could submit ideas if I want. They listen to everything, but that's under control. This, all of the marketing material. I'm going to put a thought into the design or come up with a logo or whatever. That stuff is way more time consuming than anybody.
So the value of being able to run your business while the brand is supporting you on technology,
The
new
messaging,
systems, the
yeah.
me- there's the value there. So when
I have
somebody says,
software that helps me generate
right,
quotes. Like I don't have to think about the math. I plug in the
right.
parameters.
So that value of having to pay, again, services by brands aren't necessarily free, but when you look at what you're paying for those services versus going out and trying to format them all yourself and implementing
It's a no brainer.
it's a no-brainer. Wow. So
Yeah.
Dave, you mentioned some of the things about SprayNet. Dave is the owner of SprayNet out in Suffolk County, New York. Anybody has any is looking for cabinet refinishing or the why don't you take us through the services that you offer? You're in Suffolk County, New York, Long Island. You mentioned a partnership with Lowe's, but tell us about the services and if anybody's interested in looking for those services, they can reach out to you via LinkedIn as well. Tell us about it.
All right. Thank you for that. We focus on two main things: transforming the look of your kitchen cabinets or cabinetry in general, bathrooms, office cabinets, etc., and home and building exteriors. So we we compete with other painters, kinda, in the areas where conventional painting doesn't last. So we
Right.
make these proprietary coatings that they just renew the materials that we apply them to, like no other paint can. So, for example, vinyl siding. Most people don't realize you could paint vinyl siding. Well, if you do, you're going to risk peeling unless you use our paint, right? It's unbelievable. You can take a wire brush to this paint. You're not even going to scratch it. Um, Aluminum siding, stucco, doors and windows. We have different coatings for each different substrate. Brick is a stain. You don't want to paint brick; you'll choke the brick out. Eventually, it's going to peel, and you may damage the brick. So you
Right.
stain it. It looks beautiful. It's unbelievable how you can change brick. And then, of course, the kitchen cabinet coating. So it's fun because we are actually doing some chemistry on the project site to maximize how
That's
well
interesting.
it's going to work. So depending on the weather, the heat, the humidity, um, you know, we adjust for factors to ensure that we're going to get the factory finish that we're looking for. You can't do that with traditional paint. So those are the main things that we do, and really what we enjoy most about what we deliver is the experience the clients get. Like people freak out. Okay, so whoever is, if whoever enjoys those home improvement shows and
Yeah, I
they
was
have
just
that,
gonna say, and they walk into the house. Yep.
they get that reveal moment, man, they can't believe it. I just kind of wrote an article about my experiences with this. It's so much fun, and what I've come to realize is that's really why I'm doing this business. First, I thought it would have been the money, but no, this is a celebratory deliverable, right? We we are delivering a want, not a need. So we should make it fun for the clients, right? It's considerable spend, but we're saving them a fortune, and that's the number one thing I'll get. They could walk in the kitchen like, "Oh my god!" Right? All the other
So you're getting a lot of referrals, I imagine. They're
we
not a
get
lot, but you're
referrals, and
referrals.
it's like, thank God I didn't spend 20, 30, $40,000 on a new kitchen. We do
Right.
it for about 5 or 6, and they can't believe how good it looks.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is awesome, David. I have to thank you very much for coming on with us today. We've been talking to David Veracci, who's the owner of SprayNet, franchisee with SprayNet, Suffolk County. You can obviously message Dave through LinkedIn if you have any questions, or Dave. One of the things about Dave is that him and his family are the type of people that if they can help somebody else out, very community driven. So if you have any questions about franchising, the value of using a coach consultant, whether it's me or somebody else, at TPF, we have that educational process. We don't sell franchises. We have the education to provide you with the, I think Dave will vouch for that, to get to that informed, validated decision. So we're not looking to sell you a franchise. But David, I appreciate you coming on. Go one last closing thought, Dave.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I would also like to make a mention. I've become an advocate for kidney disease. So I would also like people to be aware. If you know anyone who's suffering through this, I'm a kidney donor. Um, 2 years ago, I did it to help a friend, and I was before that I was blind to how big of an issue it is.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I've come to learn how many people have family or their families are affected by this issue,
Yep.
and the trouble it is for them to get a kidney transplant. So I would love to be a resource to anybody that has a challenge like this, and I could tell them how they may get some help.
That's great. That's great. David, it's a pleasure having you on the show. I am your host, Scotty Milas. This has been another episode of All Things Considered Franchising. All Things Considered Franchising podcast. You can reach all of the episodes on over 125 episodes now, or maybe even more than that, on all of the podcast channels. You can also go to our All Things Considered Franchising.com website and see the listings. We also list all of our Q&A sessions that we do on LinkedIn as well. You can also find me on scottmilasfranchisecoach.com or at theperfectfranchise.com. Anybody ever has any questions about business ownership, wants to take a look at franchising, reach out. Anybody on Long Island, Suffolk County, who's looking for that magic to their house, I would certainly tell you, you can go to the spraynet.com website. You could probably find Dave's information out there to reach him directly. But Dave, it's been great. Best to Gina and the boys. And I hope to get, next time we have you on, I want to get an update on what your son's doing. I'm going to leave that out there as a tease because it is just one of the most fascinating things I have ever seen. And as a music lover, it's just, it's insane. But
all right.
Wish you all the best. Go have a great, hopefully an early spring for you guys. But give my best to everybody.
Thanks so much, Scotty. It was a pleasure.
This is Scotty Milas. Until next time, All Things Considered Franchising. Thank you.